'cause it's a heave-ho, hi-ho, coming down the plains, stealing wheat and barley and all the other grains. It's a ho, hey, hi, hey, farmers.
Hey there, beer tubers. Gonna introduce you to another beer here. Some may already know this one. This one comes from a craft brewer in Ontario. This one is a Sleeman's Honey Brown. The Sleeman Company's been around for a while. They were originally founded in 1836 by John H. Sleeman in St. Catharines, Ontario, and later moved to Guelph. However, the original company shut down in 1933 because they were lost their liquor license from bootlegging to the States during Prohibition. In 1988 they started up again, and in 2006 they were bought out by Sapporo, but they still make a lot of their own beers and brew Sapporo beers now for Sapporo in Canada. Anyway, they have a reputation, and actually they use a lot of commercials and print ads to, glorify their notorious past. Sleeman being, originating from the word sly man or pirate, Also, that little bit about, true history there where they were caught bootlegging and had to shut down. That's actually kind of cool, I thought. But, you know what, maybe a beer's got a cool story, but let's see if it's actually a beer worth trying. Apparently when they restarted up in 1988, they actually brought back into service the original family recipes. So, apparently, this is the original stuff that they used to brew, but, who really knows, except for unless you're 88 years old and drinking Sleeman's again. So, without further ado, I want to take a look at this one. It's a honey brown lager, 5% ABV, and they come in their trademark clear bottles. Now, normally, with the maple leaf and the beaver on the front. Now, normally I'd be worried about clear bottles, but I managed to get this case of Sleeman's Sleeman's taster pack with 4 different brews off of a pallet at the liquor store that was fresh, like it just came out of the warehouse, and I imagine it just come off the truck. So that, and I've had a couple of these already to show that they're just fresh, not skunky at all. So without further ado, I want to take a look at this one. Honey Brown. Give it a pour here. Careful, I might get too much head. Put that in. This is a nice bubbly head, but a head without any kind of real consistency, and I imagine if that spilled over the top, it would go all over the stove rather than pillow up its large bubbles. And see if you can see that on camera through my Sam Adams glass here. Yeah, it's very, very coarse bubbles. Color-wise, it's got a nice, orange-brown, little bit hints of gold down through the bottom. It looks nice, but the head's not going to last very long. I just know it. As I'm watching it, and I'm watching it die down, and it's not dying down quite as fast as I expected, but it's looking like the bubbles are just getting bigger, and bigger, and bigger. And I really hope it doesn't blow up or something. It's just, kind of impressive to see the bubbles lasting actually that long, given how big they are. But all in all, it's going to die down off to just your standard lager picture, to be honest, or standard lager head, or lack thereof. Anyway, so yeah, like a nice, almost borderline amber, but only like an orange kind of brown. So let's give it a sniff. There's almost no smell at all for that. There's like tiny hints of sweetness to that smell, but there's really nothing to speak of in that aroma at all. Just a second. Oh, good. Wow. Darn cat. Anyway, yeah, so really, aroma-wise, there's not much to speak of. maybe some faint hints of like caramel, or perhaps even honey. But really, there's almost no smell at all to that beer. It's very, very, very trace. Nothing coming off of that for aroma at all. Well, smell is one thing. The most important part of a beer, of course, is taste. I'm actually surprised to see that much head still sitting there after having that chorus of bubbles. So, let's give it a taste. It's sweet, but not necessarily too sweet. There's a light bitterness to the back that lingers a bit, but there's almost no bitterness to the actual whole mouthfeel at all. Just a touch at the roof of the mouth and then the back of the throat as it goes down. Taste wise, it's got like almost like a caramel, kind of sweet, like brown sugar kind of taste. And a hint of honey on that taste as well. So it's kind of like a light honeyed brown sugar sweetness. However, on the back of the tongue, it's got an almost like alcoholic licorice kind of hook that is almost a little on the off-putting side. It almost tastes like it's a 5% ABV beer, I believe. 5.2% ABV. And it almost tastes like you can taste the alcohol in it. Right there in the back of the tongue. And with the sweetness. Now, it's not bad. It's just has got a very sweet kind of alcoholic taste to that aftertaste. Maybe some slight hints of grains come up in the back. Mouthfeel wise, it's like almost like a medium to light kind of beer. A little watery. It doesn't finish with any kind of dryness at all. It just sort of, you get that feeling of your throat being wet after you take a drink. But I don't mark that as a bad thing. If this were ice cold and it's not, it would probably be nice and refreshing, but right now I've warmed it up to get more of the flavors. But the flavors are predominantly like a brown sugar, honey, and alcohol, really. And sweet. Well, I'm going to sit down with this for a few minutes, and I'll come back with some thoughts. Be right back.
Hey, farmers, fire your doors when you see the jolly rods run Regina's mighty shores. Arr, arr. Well, you think the local farmers...
So what did I think of Sleeman's Honey Brown Lager? Well, before I nod off the bed here, I might as well come up with some thoughts. I found it have a nice honey brown bread kind of taste to it. It had a nice overtones of brown sugar throughout the beer with a nice toasted grain in the back. However, I kind of found that there was like a almost sickly alcoholic sweetness hook to it. It's like you took something of a drink like iced tea or something that sounds like a good idea to make it into an alcoholic beverage, but then you take a drink of it and it doesn't turn out quite as good as you thought it was going to. It's got that kind of aftertaste in the back of the throat with this beer, and I find that almost a little off-putting on it. But certainly it's a good beer. I do recommend it, and I will give it a recommendation, but it's not like it. I can't call this one of my favorites or anything. So, I'm just going to give it a 3.0 out of 5, just because it's a recommendation. It's better than average, but it's not what I would consider a fantastic beer, and it's not blowing me away either. If you're a fan of brown ales or brown beers or something, I'd certainly recommend taking a look at this beer, because it's actually pretty good, even though it's a lager. But be honest, it's nothing to write home about either. But certainly, if you want to try something like that, go right ahead. 3 out of 5. Have a good night, man. Cheers.
Well, winter is a-comin' and a chill is in the breeze. My pirate days are over once the river starts to freeze. I'll be back in springtime, but now I have to go. I hear there's lots of plundering down in New Mexico.